I'm the label. I don't need no major. I got
like,
major money.
But it seems like with
People have been constantly excited to see the talent that Gucci brings to his label. The issue is that honestly, it doesn't seem like he can keep anyone around, and that has more to do with the people he chooses to sign than Gucci himself. The label's been around for a decent amount of time and has been resurrected on a few different occasions. Unfortunately though, he's still running into the same old problems. So are the days of 1017 coming to an end? Gucci Mane officially founded 1017 back in 2007 as So Icy. Eventually he shut that down and started up 1017 Brick Squad. That label was home to some real heavyweights of the trap music scene in the area. The initial lineup contained the likes of Waka Flocka Flame, OJ the Juiceman, and Slim Dunkin. The early incarnations of the label weren't without their own problems though. One of the biggest issues at the time was the notorious beef that broke out between Gucci Mane and Waka Flocka Flame for a while. It started with a tweet which explained that the label was going to be dropping Flocka. Shortly after, Gucci came out to say that his account was hacked and that he had nothing to do with the tweet. That is until Flocka chimed in with a little bit of his own story about what went down. Flocka announced that Gucci was capping, and in all reality, they did have beef. Flocka went so far as to diss him at a Dipset reunion show. Waka also claimed that there was no way Gucci was about to drop him from the label because he owned stake in the label. Eventually, things got to the point where Flocka said that the two of them would never ever work together again, whether that be in the music world or in business. There was also a huge fallout between people on the label, turning into a bitter war between two labels. One of those labels was 1017 and the other was Brick Squad Monopoly. There was also some accusations flying around, some coming from Gucci and some coming from Frenchie. Gucci claimed that Waka Flocka's mom was stealing from him. The accusations Frenchie made were a little more serious and they related to one of the darker days for the label. Slim Dunkin, one of the members of 1017, was taken out. He was in an Atlanta studio working on a collab album between Gucci Mane and Oakland rapper V Nasty. They were all about to start shooting a video for the project when Slim and young Vito got into an argument. By the time the fight was over, Slim was dead. While everyone thought that Vito was going away for life, the verdict actually came back only convicting him for a couple of lesser charges. He was sentenced to 25 years instead. Frenchie, for whatever reason, decided to accuse Gucci of using his money and influence to sway the decision of the judge in the Slim Dunkin case. Nothing to that effect has ever been proven in court, so people really didn't give Frenchie too much credit for the accusation. At this point, the old 1017 label was effectively dead and gone. That brings us to the beginning of the current incarnation of Gucci Mane's 1017. Gucci hasn't managed to keep everyone from the starting lineup on the label, and honestly, we don't even know how long the ones who have stayed are gonna last. Rappers who have appeared in this version of the label include Fujiano, Young Mao, Hoodrich Pablo Juan, Gucci himself, Pooh Shiesty, Big Scar, Mac Drama, Key Glock, Rich Homie Quan, Hot Boy West, Coach the Ghost, and Roboy. While some of these people have managed to keep their noses clean and stay out of the way of the law, on the other hand, a lot of people involved with the label have been quite so lucky. To open it up, you know we gotta talk about Pooh Shiesty. For a minute, he was one of the biggest surprise hits to pop up in the game for a long time. Shiesty Season and the single Back in Blood were huge. Unfortunately, the success didn't last forever. Shiesty ran into some trouble with the law, and even though he's been fighting hard, we finally got a verdict recently. Pooh Shiesty and his homies were on their way to buy something to smoke on from a dude. They showed up in a green McLaren they were renting from the guy. Things went south. Accounts of what happened differ pretty wildly here. Some people really do think that actually Shiesty was just defending himself. A lot of people also think they were just trying to rob the other dude. Either way, the guy they were going to do the deal with ended up getting shot in the butt, and Shiesty left a bag full of 40 grand behind in the confusion. The investigation lasted for a little while, and a lot of people thought that the investigation was hitting a dead end. That is until we found out that the FBI was working on the case. They were able to get a hold of the bag of money Pooh Shiesty had fumbled back at the scene of the crime, and unfortunately for Shiesty, the numbers on some of the bills matched visible serial numbers on some of Shiesty's bills that he was flexing on an Instagram post. With that, they had enough to secure a conviction. As of now, Shiesty is due to serve 5 years and 3 months in prison. People on Twitter have a lot to say about the recent developments in the Pooh Shiesty case. While I'm not going to repost it here, a lot of what people are saying about the whole thing ends up just being jokes about his name. I don't really know what I can say here. I guess poop is always funny. Anyway, fans have a lot of opinions. Some fans were really upset that he was getting 5 years, but honestly, he could have done a lot worse, especially considering what we've seen in a lot of other cases. One fan said that lawyer earned his money for real. This is a miracle. Of course, another fan pointed out that while Pooh Shiesty could have done a lot better, this is what we got. The issue is, who does Gucci have left? The dude just can't stop booking guys who really can't stay out of trouble. He said, damn, who left on 1017? It's like the third artist Gucci done lost. Next up, we got Hot Boy West. While his public profile may not have been as big as that of Shiesty, he was still on a come up. He unfortunately ended up with a robbery warrant. Eventually, the US Marshals were able to catch up with him during a traffic stop. Of course, you already know they were going to deal with the warrant, but also they ended up recovering a weapon in the car, meaning that things just got a lot worse for West. As of now, he hasn't been convicted of any major charges charges, but he is out on bail. Roboy is an interesting case, because not only does he have some issues going on with law enforcement right now, but he also ended up getting into it with Gucci. Apparently, either he was just mad or he had run into some other issues with Gucci, but he aired out some internal business. For whatever reason, it turns out that the 1017 chain that Gucci gifted him for joining the label was fake. Maybe he took that as a sign of disrespect, or maybe he just thought Gucci was broke. But they probably aren't on the best of terms after that. Roboy signed in 2020, and after the whole chain debacle, things got even worse. In March of 2020, he was running from the police. He climbed in the back of a truck, but dogs got to him like that. Instead of turning himself in there, he kept running and climbed onto a roof. The cops caught up with him and took him in. Nobody really knows what was up or why he was running, but either way, it's hard to think he's gonna be working with Gucci in the future. Then we got Fujiano. Unlike some of the other members of the label from the past, he's still technically listed on the roster. Fujiano had a pretty rough go of it, to be honest. While it was smooth sailing for a while, everything went south when he did a show at the Lavish Lounge in Greenville County. For whatever reason, one of the people in his entourage decided to start flashing gang signs at somebody in the crowd. At that point, the dude in the crowd lifted up his shirt and pulled out a weapon, sending shots at the stage. That's when the rest of the crew Fujiano brought in started sending shots back. Fujiano got hit with a couple of charges as a result for being in possession of a weapon and ammo. Perhaps one of the most intense histories that anyone's who's ever been affiliated with Gucci has belonged to Coach the Ghost. This dude has an extensive rap sheet. The dude's from Brooklyn, and his song Hit List really put him on the map. The issues for him started when he was driving down the street and saw Brian Sannon. He let some shots fly out the window and hit Sannon and one of his friends, in addition to grazing somebody else who was with him. The thing is though, Hit List goes hard. I mean, regardless of what the dude's done, the fans all over the video are riding hard for the dude. You know something's up when Gucci co-signs a dude from New York with nothing but a music video. One fan did point out something that was honestly pretty surprising. The whole track, he's not out here throwing out bad language constantly. Dude doesn't have to be hard. There's one or two words here or there, but for the most part, he just goes. This fan said, when you could write a diss without any curse words, you're a lyrical goat. Another fan was a little bit tongue-in-cheek about what was going on. He said, free Coach the Ghost. He's obviously innocent. He shows remorse right in the beginning. If I shot and I missed, I apologize. That being said, Coach might just be done for depending on his verdicts. Detectives on the case decided that Coach was involved, but by the time they had put it together, Coach wasn't even in the state anymore. At this point, there's still no clear idea on whether Coach was the one who did it, or if he was just with someone who did. Regardless, he got picked up and held on some charges for a little while. The police picked him up in Georgia and carted him off to New York. To make matters worse for Coach in this situation, when being investigated, they realized that this wasn't the first major crime for old Coach. He got hit with the charge for making an attempt on someone's life back in the day when he was just a teen. For that, he ended up spending 2011 to 2017 in lockup. The police also identified him as a member of the Hood Stars New York gang, which means that they started to think that the death of Brian Sanson must have been gang-related. Not only that, but he was also involved in some RICO-type charges once they started to look more into the gang. They decided that he must have been some sort of leader to the gang and tried to hit him with more charges. After jumping into the booth for the first few times upon release, he decided he was going to air out his beef with Fabio Foreign. I was searching and looking for Fabio, around and got Addy and Guapo. Yeah, he's still complaining that he's trying to be famous, but bullets don't care if you're hot, bro. After Gucci heard the track, he co-signed Coach immediately, but So Icy Summer dropped shortly after the song dropped, without Coach. That's because Coach signed to Atlantic instead. A lot of people think that maybe something happened between Coach and Gucci, but honestly, he probably just saw better value out of the deal with Atlantic. But what do y'all think on this though? Is Gucci actually doing something wrong here, or is this just what happens when you're signing dudes that are mostly from the streets? What do y'all think about some of these cases? Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Oh, and if you were digging what you saw in this video, check out this next one.